I didn't know people like me could grow up happy. That sounds dramatic, but it's true. When I was younger, I thought being gay meant giving something up. A family, a career, the simple peace of walking down the street without fear. I thought people like me only existed in secrets, in whispers, in stories that didn't end well. I'd never seen anyone who lived openly, someone who wasn't apologizing for it, someone who looked free, until the day I met my first openly gay mentor, the day that changed the way I saw my future. And after that meeting, I cried for days, not because I was sad, but because I realized for the first time I didn't have to be afraid of growing up. Before that day, I lived my life like I was holding my breath. My coming out journey wasn't loud or brave or cinematic. It was quiet, secret, a slow war inside my head. I was the kid who smiled too much, who said, "No, I don't have a crush," whenever anyone asked. I became good at pretending. When you live closeted, you start editing yourself in real time, every word, every gesture. It's exhausting. I'd watch other people talk about love, like it was something easy, something natural, and I'd sit there wondering why it felt like love was something I had to earn by hiding. I didn't even know what being queer really meant. All I knew was that it was something you didn't want people to call you. It was a label that made people change their tone mid-sentence. And so I buried it. I told myself maybe it was just a phase. Maybe if I ignored it long enough, it would go away. But the truth doesn't go away. It waits, quietly, patiently, until something or someone gives it permission to speak. That someone was Alex. It happened during a summer writing workshop. I had almost skipped it. It was hot, and I told myself I wasn't good enough to be there anyway. But something in me, that tiny, stubborn spark, pushed me to show up. When I walked into the room, it smelled like burnt coffee and new paper. People were chatting, awkward and excited. And then Alex walked in. I didn't know they were gay yet. I just remember how confident they seemed. Not arrogant, but grounded, like someone who'd made peace with themselves a long time ago. They started talking about storytelling, how the best stories are the ones we're scared to tell, how truth has a weight to it that fiction can never replace. And then, halfway through the talk, they said something that made the whole room go quiet. When I was younger, I didn't see anyone who looked like me, who loved like me. So I wrote stories pretending to be someone else, until one day, I realized I wasn't supposed to fit into the world's story. I was supposed to write my own. I remember that sentence like it was carved into my skin. I felt this lump rise in my throat, because I'd never heard someone say those words out loud. Gay, queer, without flinching, without shame. For the first time, I saw what pride looked like. Not a parade, not a slogan, just someone existing without apology. I wanted to go up to Alex after, to say something, to ask how. How did you get there? How did you stop being scared? But I was frozen. The fear that had lived in me for years was still there, tight in my chest. Still, I waited until the end. Everyone left, and then it was just the two of us. When I finally walked up, my hands were shaking. I said, "Your talk really meant a lot." Alex smiled, a small, gentle smile. The truth tends to do that. I nodded, then blurted out, "I think I'm gay." It was the first time I'd ever said it to anyone. The words came out trembling, half whisper, half confession, and then silence. I waited for something. For judgment, for awkwardness, for the look that says, "I don't know how to respond to this." But Alex didn't flinch, didn't even blink. They just looked at me with this calm, steady warmth and said, "Congratulations, that's the bravest thing you'll ever say." I didn't expect that. I'd spent years thinking those words, "I'm gay," were something to hide, something that would make people look at me differently. And here they were, calling it brave. I laughed, but it came out as a sob, because no one had ever said that to me before. Alex reached out, not to comfort me, but to anchor me. They said, "You don't owe the world your story until you're ready, but don't spend your life apologizing for being honest." Then they told me something that became the twist I didn't expect, the part that changed me forever. When I was your age, I met someone like me too, my own mentor. She told me the same thing I'm telling you now. One day, you'll meet someone who needs to hear you say it. And when that happens, say it with pride. And I realized I wasn't just the kid being seen for the first time. I was part of a chain, one person helping another believe they're allowed to exist. I cried the whole bus ride home. Not the quiet kind of crying, the kind where you can't stop, where it feels like your chest is cracking open. Because for the first time, I didn't feel broken. I felt connected. The days that followed felt like I'd stepped into a new world. Nothing around me had changed. Same streets, same people, same fears. But I had changed. Meeting Alex didn't magically erase my shame, but it gave me something better, a map out of it. Before, I thought coming out meant announcing who I was to the world. But I learned it starts smaller than that. It starts with telling the truth to yourself. I wrote about that day in my journal, over and over, because I didn't want to forget how it felt. The freedom, the trembling honesty, the relief. That meeting became my turning point. I started noticing queer joy around me, in music, in art, in passing smiles on the street. It had always been there. I just never believed I was allowed to claim it. And slowly, I started to imagine a life where I could love fully, exist openly, and stop living halfway. Alex once emailed me months later. It said, "How's your story going?" And I replied, "I think I'm finally writing it in my own voice." That's what mentors do. They don't hand you a map, they hand you a mirror. And for the first time, I looked into that mirror and didn't look away. If you're listening right now, and you haven't met your version of Alex yet, someone who makes you feel seen, who makes you believe you're not alone, I promise you will. Maybe it won't be a mentor, maybe it'll be a friend, a stranger, a story online that feels like it was written just for you. But one day, you'll meet someone who makes you cry, not from sadness, but from recognition. Because in them, you'll see a glimpse of who you could become. That's what happened to me. Before Alex, I thought being queer meant surviving. After Alex, I understood it could mean living. If there's one thing I've learned, it's this. Visibility isn't about being loud. It's about being real. And when you show up as yourself, you give someone else permission to do the same. So if you're on your own coming out journey, don't rush. Don't let fear tell you it's too late. Just take the next small, honest step. Maybe that step is whispering your truth into the dark. Maybe it's watching this video and realizing you're not alone. Maybe it's commenting, "I'm still figuring it out." Whatever it is, it counts. It matters. Because honesty, even in its smallest form, is how we begin to heal. And if you're someone who's already walked this path, be someone's Alex. Show up. Speak. Be the mirror you never had. Because you never know who's watching, waiting to see proof that people like them can grow up happy. If my story resonated with you, if it made you feel something, leave a comment. Tell me about the person who helped you see yourself. Or tell me if you're still waiting to meet them. And if you want to be part of a space where lesbian stories, queer stories, and real voices are celebrated, hit subscribe. Stay here with me. Because this, right here, is proof that you're not too different, too late. or too much. You belong.